What's up, Martin? Hey, what's up, Leonard? Get me back up on the screen. What's up, guys? How are you? I need a haircut. Man, I know. I need more hair is what I really need. What's up, Quinn? Thanks, man. What's up, senor? Hey, Last Rhino. Ciao, buddy. What's up? How are you? Awesome. What's up, Drift? Are you printing with a matrix paper? All right, cool. We'll give it another, I don't know, another minute or so. How's your guys' weekend? What have you guys been up to this weekend? Anything fun? What's new? Thanks, Martin. Yeah, it's pretty fun, man. A couple different artists. One of them is actually, it's just like a giant, it's just like a giant tapestry. Both of them are giant tapestries, honestly. And one of them goes above my bed. It's huge. It's like, I don't even know. It goes even further past that wall over there. It's fantastic, and it glows under the black light. It's pretty sweet. But then I use it as a background too for my man cave office. So yeah, it works out. It's pretty cool. And the artist is Android Jones. If you haven't heard of Android Jones, you really should check out his artwork. He's one of my favorite kind of modern artists. Pretty cool. He uses and combines graphic design with illustration to create artwork. It's pretty mind-boggling. And if you want to geek out on YouTube, and just watching some of how he creates his work, it's pretty impressive. Audio's still good with everybody. I want to make sure audio is solid. That was the one bit of feedback I had on the last stream, is we needed better audio. So I wanted to make sure everything is good with you guys. Cool. Awesome. All right. All of my programming looks to be going pretty well here. So we're looking good. Cool. Give it one more minute, and that'll be 5 after, and we can get this show on the road. What's up, Sheldon? How are you, man? Good to see you. Thanks for joining. What's up, Maruks? How are you? Senor, I have black lights. Yeah, I got black lights in my office. I got black lights in my bedroom. I mean, I'm a photographer, so lighting to me is just kind of what's the best way to describe? It's a bit of a passion, or it could be more of an obsession. My whole house is pretty much, it's got whatchamacallit lights, Philips Hue lights everywhere, so I can change colors all throughout every single room. And then I have black lights too in the bedroom, black lights in my office. Yeah, lighting is a real big thing to me. Inspiration. It's one of the reasons why I got into photography, is I love, drawing images with light, because that's what you're doing essentially with photography or video. So, nice, Quinn. You got a new pair of VOs. What VOs did you get, man? That's cool. I love the Verite Opens. It's so incredible. You doing some editing, Martin? Nice. Did you have a cool photo job this weekend? Tom, what's up, buddy? Wonder if Marcello can with his solid state amps with his dynamics. Yeah, man. I mean, let's be real. I think hopefully by now people are getting the gist that I do like tube amplification better than solid state. It's true. We will talk about the solid state amplifiers in both of these two really cool products in a few moments once we get going. Desert Ironwood, Quinn. Yes, man. That's what I have right here. Oh, did you go with the stainless too, or did you go with the gold, or what did you go for your fittings, Quinn? That's cool. Yes, and your UV lighting, actually, yeah, UV lighting is good for plants too. So I'm a huge plant lover in the house. I've got all kinds of different tropical plants. monsteras, money trees, pothos, snake plants, anthuriums. I mean, a huge plant lover, and so actually some ultraviolet lights is really good too for plants. I don't really use them for that purpose. They're more just for the aesthetic black lights to look cool, create a mood, if you will. Nice. So you kind of went with a dark wood, Quinn, with a black grill. That's sick, dude. Yeah, when Zach sent me these, I put these through a lot of just, I didn't even listen to them right away. I put them through because they weren't burned in. So he said, hey, make sure you burn them in. So I put them through the pink noise phase for quite a while too. And it was hard though. All I wanted to do was listen to them. But I have this thing, I got to burn it in a little bit, give them a fair shot before I give anything any impressions. Nice. Yoga shoots. That's cool. I like yoga. I've been doing a little bit of yoga in the past, I'd say 6 months, a little bit here and there, just to kind of work on flexibility because I've been working out a lot, trying to just get into the best shape of my over 40-year-old life. And so I've been lifting a lot of weights and exercising, but you got to do a lot of stretching too. Otherwise, things start hurting, which, definitely some of you guys that are older can relate to that. Thanks, Quinn. All right. Cool. Never met anyone with a black light in the bedroom unless the police were involved. Senor, dude, you're missing out. What are you talking about? Black light in the bedroom is where it's at. That's like, oh man. That's a whole nother live stream we have to get into, and we'd have to change the rating probably of the stream, and it would have to be like 18 and up. So we'll stick to audio today. But black lights in the bedroom can be good for other things too as well. All right, let's see here. All right, cool. So we went over a little bit over 5 minutes we waited, and so we can get started. Yeah, there you go, Quinn. All right, bedroom black light. So I'm gonna post that up just so everybody doesn't think I'm the only one that's crazy that likes black lights in the bedroom or office for that reason. For this, my whole office too. I'm sure you've seen it in some of my other videos, and you'll see it more. Is all black light reactive stuff for the most part. So all of the artwork I have on my walls, to the tapestry back there, to the other tapestry that sits above my bed, but also kind of plays in for a background for when I'm doing live streams in my office. It's all black light UV reactive, so it's pretty fun. No yoga for you, Martin. That's all good. It's all good. It's pretty fun though. It is. Some of it's hard, man. I did that hot yoga for a while. Dang, that was crazy. Sweaty, hard. I just prefer the basic yoga, honestly. All right, so let's get into some yoga for our ears, and let's talk a little bit about what we're here to talk about today, and hang out too. This will be a fun kind of chat, low-key, sound impression. Just go over and talk about some features of the Chord Hugo TT2 and the matrix-element-m X. So first of all, I got to give a big thanks to JB Jeremy, and he sent out so much gear for me to hear, both in 2020 and in 2021 already. So the Chord Hugo TT2 is actually Jeremy's. So a big thank you and a big shout out to him. First and foremost, you're one of the best of us, as I said before. Appreciate you so much, brother. Thanks, Sleepy. Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for joining. Good to see you, man. Senor, yeah, the black light could reveal some funny things for your I gotta put that up on the thing so people don't think we're crazy. It could reveal some funny things for your 18-year-old's room, especially. So first and foremost, these are both really not in the mid-fi ranking for gear. These are pretty high up in the in the price range. You have the Chord Hugo TT2, which is around $5,500 US, and then you have the matrix-audio Element X that is going to be coming in at around $3,500 now with a price increase. So, what's up, Alex? And then each of these is kind of unique in their own sense because they both have features that are kind of uniquely their own, but then they also share a lot of features with each other as well. How many, just out of curiosity, is there any TT2 owners out there in the house? I think we have, I know Last Rhino was here earlier. I think he is a TT2 owner, I believe. Is there any other TT2 owners? TT2 owners out there? Yeah, man, Sheldon, it is, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. There we go, I can fix that. Bam. There we go. Thanks, Sleepy. Good call. Appreciate you. Yeah, Sheldon, seriously. The Matrix is a big piece of kit, man. I am really thoroughly impressed. So, you know, being lucky enough to test a lot of different gear in the last year and a half, almost going on, almost a year and a half now, I would say, especially in the Head-Fi world. It is one of the nicest DAC amp combos as far as build quality I've ever seen. The case for it is beefy, like it's thick, it's built out of a solid piece of metal. I mean, it's a serious piece of kit for sure. It's hardcore. Like, I mean, if zombies were to bust through right now through the window or through that door, like the first thing I'm gonna defend and go to war with is the matrix-element-m-dac-amp. That thing is gonna smash, like Hulk smash. It's beefy for reals. Matt Hilty, what's up, man? You have a, let's see here. I only have a Hugo 2 to price. Yeah, Hugo 2 I've heard really good things about. Really good things about. Martin, you auditioned the TT2. Yeah, man, the Brits do have a really good way of doing things with sound. They have a unique sound. A lot of their gear, stuff from like Cambridge to Chord, you know, and iFi, like they all have a really great sound quality to them. And they also all have always kind of like interesting design choices that are kind of different than what you see coming out of Asian markets or the German markets as well, or American for that matter. So they're always kind of unique. John and Garrett also have a TT2 as well as a big, wow, that's probably a sick pairing. The TT2 with a bigger bend. Awesome. Amps and sound. Yeah, man, zombies. Just know that. The Matrix will defend against zombies if need be. Yeah, the bottlehead crack is about the same height, but what you're seeing a little bit, Sleepy, is probably a little bit of perspective distortion, because what you have is anything further on the left side of the camera over here is going to have more distortion because it's to that side of the lens. So that could also be why it looks a little taller. But in reality, it's only maybe like ½ inch taller or so than the Mogwai. Yeah, I guess I should say what we got up there for our viewers. We got a Mogwai OG with KT88 power tubes. We've got a bottlehead crack, and that's just the stock tubes that came with it. And then you got up front the pendant with Telefunken power tubes and an Amprix input tube. And then you got the stock JJ rectifier tube. I think the crack does sound better and better with better DACs. And I think that was one of my points of conversation that I wanted to get into today and see what you guys thought about that. Because in my mind, you know, we're always trying to build a system of synergy, right? So like, where do you start, right? So for me, I think headphones or speakers, right? You're going to start with what's going to give you the sound you're closest looking for, you know, to what you prefer, and at least that's what I do. I don't know, you guys might be a little different, but at least that's what I would do. Start with the headphones or the speakers, and then, you know, kind of build off that, and then probably amplification next, which will probably have the greatest next, you know, change in sound, and then maybe the DAC. But, you know, a lot of times people say that the DACs, you can't hear the difference between a DAC. And I mean, I kind of have to disagree. I've heard some really poorly implemented DACs, and I've heard some really well implemented DACs now. And you can't also always blame the chip. So like some people will say Sabre chips are extremely bright and always fatiguing sounding. Well, matrix audio, this one, matrix-audio element X, doesn't fit that mold. It's not fatiguing. It is more energetic, than some other more laid-back DACs, but it doesn't sound fatiguing, at least not to my ears. So I think that there is something to be said that the DAC might not always want to be the very last thing you think of. It might be something you're thinking of while pairing with the amp. So you got your headphones that you like, then maybe it's like, okay, well, what is going to be the DAC and the amp that's going to get me closest to the signature? So that's just kind of my take. What do you guys think about that? How do you guys build your system? What are your thoughts? Hey, TP, thanks for joining, man. I'm glad I could do one so it'd be better for you guys' time zone. Yes, it is a nice collection of tube amps. Absolutely. I love all of them. They're fantastic. Let's see, exactly design. I have to confess, I listen with my eyes. That's funny. I think, hey, I think aesthetics is important for us all, so I don't think that's not a bad thing, if it looks good too. I don't really listen with my eyes for measurement-wise. That's not my big thing. I do read measurements. Hey, what's up, MF Audio? Good to see you, man. Yeah, I wish. Hey, you know what? When we hit, well, I don't know, maybe 50,000 subscribers, we can work on that pendant giveaway for sure. Let's see. Yeah, Tom, absolutely, man. I agree. I can hear the differences in many different DACs. Sometimes like the lowest end DACs around the $100 price range, maybe it's a little tougher if the implementations are done pretty well. But then also too, like, I did a listening of DACs that were around $700 to $900, pretty in depth the other day before I shipped out one of my DACs. And it was the differences were subtle. Let's be real, at least from my experience. They were subtle, but they were audible. So there was audible differences, and especially in the different technologies of the DACs. So, I think if you have the ability to really, listen consistently and train your ears and really have some good songs picked out that you really know, you'll start to hear some subtleties and differences between DACs anywhere from, the lower end range all the way to higher up range, And there's even subtle differences between these two, which we're going to talk about. However, I'm going to say, first of all, this will not be in-depth. We're not going to go like in-depth feature review of the Chord TT2, in-depth feature review of the matrix-element X. That's going to be a separate review altogether. And honestly, the Chord Hugo TT2 has so many features. It could take, I would want to have this on hand for probably 3 months to really go through and feel out all the features of this. So this will be more so impressions of both sound and features, and talk about some key benefits and what, people may like. Let's see here. That's awesome. So one of your DACs you use, you don't even know what it is, but you like it. Oh, Yamaha. Okay, cool. OV96i. Hey, one of my first surround sound receivers back in my my Best Buy and Magnolia Hi-Fi days was a Yamaha surround sound receiver, and I loved that receiver. I thought it was great. Sleepy, you go headphones to amps and DACs last. Yeah, that is pretty classic. That's pretty much the classic way of doing it. Yeah, Matt, it's real. I mean, if you couldn't hear a difference in a DAC, or an amp for that matter, wouldn't that save a lot of money in this hobby? It's true, but I think that's half the fun of it. The more you get into the hobby, the more you learn, and the more the differences you start to hear. And also I think our ears become more trained. I think at least in my experience, my background was more so in the 2-channel, so I was more trained for 2-channel listening. And then a year and a half ago, I got really deep into the Head-Fi experience because my daughter was born a couple years ago, and so it became a necessity. Well, I guess it was almost 2 years ago that I got into the Head-Fi experience now, because she's a little over 2. So, I think that, we learn more as we listen more. Let's see, Alex, what do? You do cans, source material. Yeah, good point. I should have mentioned source material. Absolutely. It's kind of like the same thing with photography, right? ISO, shutter speed, aperture, they make that triangle, that exposure triangle. It's kind of the same thing with audio. It's got to be amplification, you know, DAC, you know, maybe you put that all in kind of one, and then, you know, headphones and then the source itself. Or you could put, I guess, the source in with the DAC. You know, either way, it's kind of the same thing. To make up that sound, you got to have great source, you know, whether that be vinyl or digital or whatever you're listening to. Cassette tapes, if there's any cassette tape listeners out there still. Marooks, even ESS chips sound great if DAC used to. Yeah, I think ESS chips, if they're well implemented, sound exceptional. And I think a lot of the Matrix line of products actually is a good example of well implemented ESS chips. All right. I'm not too familiar with that one, Johnson, about the Cayenne iDAC 6. I was reading something about that the other day, though, and it does look interesting to me because that's a pretty solid company, and I know that the boys at headphones.com are in deep with Cayenne as far as selling their products, so that's something maybe I can check out. All right, let's see. Drift, once I get from him, let's see. Drift says, once I go from headphones, amps, DACs, and I basically spend the most on DACs, amps. That's funny, man. Yeah, you backwards, you reverse engineer it. That's awesome. That's good, man. That's hilarious. Cans, bourbon, amps, music. Dude, AposAudio. Let's be real. Bourbon is a form of equalizer, right? Tone control, if you will, right? Substances while listening will change the tone of what you're hearing 100%. In fact, there's a really funny track I was listening to, and one I'll have to share with you guys in a few minutes here, but it was a Nils Fram track, and I was listening to it last night, just kind of, you know, just prepping myself for today, you know, for this live stream, and I kid you not, it was off his latest album, and it's going to be releasing on vinyl March 12th on Amazon or wherever you like to buy vinyl from. And there was a song on it. I have to look it up. I'll look it up in a few minutes here. And he's just playing the piano beautifully. And obviously this is just live, and I don't know if it has a limited audience or if this is just people, you know, playing with him at the same time. But there was so much coughing and hacking happening. The only thing I could think about the whole time is like, man, somebody's taking like bong rips in the background because they can't stop coughing. What is going on? And then it made me think of concerts and being able to go to concerts pre-COVID days. And I was just like, oh man. And then I was like, I can't wait to go to concerts again. I'm so excited. So yes, bourbon or other substances will alter the sound experience. Cables, yeah, I'm with you, AposAudio too, because cables to me are kind of like the last thing. You know, I really like AudioQuest cables for my interconnects for, you know, between components. I don't always use them for everything, but most of the time I do. You know, but, you know, I think probably, in my opinion, they're probably probably the least amount of sound difference you're going to hear versus some of the other components, like you're saying. I think the bourbon would outweigh cables 100%. Let's see. What else? Headphones and try to find the amp-DAC pairing. Yeah, absolutely, Sheldon. Yep, absolutely. Headphones first. Me too. Yep. ADI DAC 2. Nice. DP, how do you like that new ADI DAC? There's a lot of big fans of that one. Yeah, that's what I'm interested in hearing one day. I know that it's pretty similar to my D90 DAC that I have right now from Topping, but you've got a ton of EQ options. But you know, similar AKM chips. I think the D90 uses the most updated chip. So I think there's been some people that say you got a little bit better detail presentation in the D90, but you've just got so much better feature set within the ADI2. All right, cool. So right now, if you guys are interested, I don't know if any of you guys are camera tech nerds, like I am. Well, I know Martin is, but right now I'm right here in this camera. I've got a Canon C70 cinema camera, EOS-C. That's going to be my camera A, and then my camera B back here is a Canon C300 Mark III cinema camera. So both really, really awesome. I've switched from Fuji video, all 100% to Canon for video. I made that switch. In fact, the last video I'm editing right now where I used any Fuji camera in is on my Final Cut timeline right now, and that's going to be on coming up here pretty soon. Let's see. Matt, you brought your own headphones. You're looking to listen to TT2. Yeah, the TT2 with the upscaler. That's like a $10,000 combination, a little over 10 grand. But I have heard, Matt, that is just like, I mean, you don't need anything else. That's it. Like you've probably reached your destination, when your audio destination, if you got the TT2 and the matching upscaler. Yeah, Johnson. Yeah, I do listen to vinyl with headphones, but not nearly as much, to be honest. Vinyl for me, I spin mostly through my speakers. And I really kind of do that more so just for me when I want to just enjoy it, or with my daughter because she loves to see the little light on the record and watch it spin. And it's kind of an experience more so because, I mean, if we're talking pure audio quality, I think digital is still going to have the best audio quality overall. Just because you got static electricity, dust, just a lot more to deal with vinyl pressings, so digital takes out and cuts all that, but I still love vinyl and I still definitely spin it. Not so much with headphones anymore. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's just my iMac for a monitor. You lucky one, Marcel. Yeah. Yeah, Tilton Lane, great question. That's a photo question, and I'll always take photo questions too. I mean, and let me know in the chat if you guys want to see some more photo and video related streams and stuff in the future. Maybe leave me a comment after the video is done, maybe not just on the live stream, and let me know that, because if I get enough people commenting on that and showing that there's interest in photo, video, live streams, I would love to do some of that if you guys are interested in it. I use Profoto lighting for my still photography. Yeah, absolutely, Tilton. I love Profoto. I think they're one of the best. Very durable. I think lighting, you can get good quality lighting in all different kinds, but I think Profoto, what's so great about it is durability, and then also the mount that they use is so great, and it's easy and it's fast and it's durable. So, and you got tons of options, tons of modification options with Profoto, more than anybody. All right, let's see. All right, let's see. Am I almost caught up here? All right. Yo, Denver. What's up, buddy? Thanks for joining, man. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Yeah, Quinn, the C300 is sick. Let me just be real. It is sick. Like for locked off camera A or sick slow motion, handheld, also, or shoulder mounted. C300 is awesome. C70 actually, I would say, does everything the C300 Mark III does in a smaller form factor, just without the raw, and it's easier to hold. Yes, Denver. I know Denver loves vinyl. Yeah, Denver's a buddy of mine, and we go way back since God, I think Denver was only a teenager, maybe 20 when I first met him, which is a long time. And he actually creates vinyl artwork, which is really cool. So we're going to have him on the live stream coming up pretty soon here, talking about his artwork. He's also a music producer, and a DJ. So that'll be a fun stream coming up soon. I think that's in a couple weeks. Thanks, Denver. Appreciate it, man. Awesome, Martin. Yeah, I would love to do some photo stuff. Maybe leave me comments after the stream is over on what kind of photo stuff you guys would like to talk about, and we can set up a live stream on that. I would love to do it. DAP. Tilton, I'm not using a DAP right now. I have been looking at getting one, but currently right now I'm not using any DAPs. I have in my house, this is going to sound nerdy. Then again, I don't know, it's not, because I'm talking to you guys. You guys are all kind of nerdy geeks like me. I don't have a need for DAPs anymore, because I got, one, there's not a lot of traveling going on for me right now because of COVID. Two, I have listening stations set up all throughout my house. So I've got a bedside rig with a matrix-audio i3 Mini Pro and a CTH, tube hybrid. And then I have obviously this station that I have here, which is my primary work listening station where I do a bunch of my work at. and then I have you know, a station where there's speakers, and then I have another station where I have a surround sound room, or I have in a chair where I can just listen along. So yeah, so I have a few different areas that I actually really have set up. So I don't really have a DAC right now that I'm using. So all right, so let's get into it, because people are probably like, hey, when are we ever going to talk about this? So we'll get back into chatting here in a little bit. So the Chord TT2. So for those of you that own the Chord TT2, you probably will know all of the greatness that it has. It has one of the best sounding implementations of a DAC I have ever heard. I think it's probably not as energetic, if you will, as some of the other DACs I've heard, but it still gives you exceptional amounts of detail, but it layers that detail in a way that is a little bit easier to digest in some cases than some other DACs. And it has multiple filters too, 4 I believe. So if you're willing to experiment with filtration, you can change up the filter some to see, you know, what is your preference. I think 2 of them are a little bit warmer filters, and then the warmest filter adds a little bit of detail on the 4th stage of filters. So yeah, you've got a really great product in Chord with a unique sound that's kind of all of their own. And then the Matrix, I would say, is a bit more neutral sounding to my ears, exceptionally detailed. It may even stage a touch wider, okay, than the Chord TT2 to my ears, but it's probably a little bit more linear of a stage, I would say, but it does still pull you into the stage, but probably not quite as much to my ears as the Chord TT2 does, pulling you into the stage. They're both very dynamic sounding. I think the TT2 to me sounds maybe a touch warmer in the mid-range than the matrix-element X does. So with that, I would say like kind of the Element X is kind of purely neutral, really. Of all the DACs I've heard, I've compared it also to like the Bifrost 2, which the Bifrost 2 I would say is a warmer signature as well than the matrix-element X, or any of the Matrix line for that matter. And even the D90 is warmer as well. So I think if you look at the matrix-element X as like neutrality, at least that's how I take it, which is why I acquired it for my audio chain for reviewing purposes, because I felt it was one of the highest performing for the money neutral sounding DAC signatures while still sounding enjoyable, especially if you're willing to move it into the 2nd or 4th filter. So filter 2 or 4 are extremely maybe more realistic sounding to my ear. They're the slow roll-off filters, so they sound a little bit more natural in their presentation than does, you know, some of the other filters in the chain. So now with build quality, so let's talk about build quality. So we touched a little bit on the basics of the sound, but let's talk about features and build. So obviously there's a significant difference in size between the two, and weight. So both of them are preamplifiers, so you can run both of these as preamps. They're both obviously headphone amplifiers, and they're both obviously also digital analog converters. Now, let's start with the amps. The headphone amps stages, I mean, are not even comparable. So, I mean, the Chord TT2's headphone amp is vastly superior. So that is one compromise with a matrix-element X. Okay, now, it does have a balance out with a matrix-element X, which is a better way to go. So if you're gonna listen, you have more power out of there, more current out of that connection, so you do have better performance out of that balanced connection. So keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that if you're thinking about the Matrix, you're like, I'm completely bummed on that. It's still a pretty solid headphone amplifier if you use it balanced, but you're also not at the level of the Chord TT2 as far as headphone amplification. However, the Chord TT2 is also $2,000 more. So I would say like the Chord TT2 amplifier is like on par with like a pretty clean solid state, like maybe like a THX 789 or a what's it called? A Phonitor, like a Phonitor probably, but not as not as clinical sounding as the Phonitor. To me, the Phonitor sounded very clinical, and that's one of my next reviews I'm dropping. And so same with the A90. That's a pretty clinical sounding amp. Both of them are. So to me, the Chord paired with its own internal DAC, which is probably part of the reason why it sounds better, you know, because the DAC is phenomenal. It is a well-performing, awesome headphone amplifier. Now, another thing to keep in mind is it is only capable of single-ended from the front, okay? So if you're looking over here at this connection over here, right? So we only have, you know, we've got right here for your IEMs, and then you've got 2 headphone connections, your standard 1/4 inch. So yes, the TT2 Matt Hilty does have crossfeed function, and it's awesome, and it sounds very good. So definitely does. And it's one of the best crossfeed functions I've heard from an amp. The Phonitor also is pretty awesome for crossfeed as well too. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, Matt, you can get an adapter. You definitely can get an adapter, and I think it runs like something like 18 watts out of the back. It's ridiculous how, or I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but I didn't go that far. I think there is an adapter in the box, but honestly, most of the stuff I do is out of single-ended anyways. So for me, I was able to just rock out pretty much all of my headphones from single-ended out of the cord, and it sounded great with all of them because you had, I think it's something like 8 watts out of the front connections. So it's plenty powerful. So you're getting a very competent, awesome, no corners cut amplifier built into the Chord TT2 for sure. So that is something that is a benefit over the Matrix, whereas the Matrix is still very good. If you have lower impedance headphones or not as demanding headphones, the Matrix is going to be good. You'll be awesome. You'll be very satisfied with it. Like I listened to it balanced, the Rad Zero with it balanced, awesome. I mean, I even listened to the Verite Open Balance or the EOS, sounds still very good. You know, it's not going to sound great with the HE6, for, you know, it's just, there's not enough current in my opinion. So you're going to be better suited with a different amplifier. And we'll talk about that. That's why you see all the tube amps, or, you know, going into different tube amplifiers is kind of the way to go, is what I really enjoyed anyways. Yeah, Last Rhino, it really is. The crossfeed in the TT2 is something to really, it's badass. It's good. It's really good. I haven't used the Chord Qobuz with a pendant before, but I've now used the Hugo TT2 with a pendant, and that's a phenomenal pairing as well. Yeah, chord filtering is amazing. And I think the Chord TT2 as a DAC has like 100 taps, so it's like 50 more taps to create the analog conversion over the Hugo, I believe. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but whatever the model is below the TT2, I believe it has double the amount of taps to create the analog conversion, which is pretty impressive, and it's pretty exceptional. So let's talk a little bit about also Roon, because I'm a huge Roon proponent, and Roon actually is kind of the way I do all my listening now, especially now that I've gone to having Roon endpoints at every single listening station. Now, the Hugo TT2 is not Roon ready. It is Roon tested, so Roon will pick it up and recognize it, and it'll play flawlessly through USB. However, if you say just wanted to have, you know, a full Roon ready experience where you're streaming directly to your DAC, the Matrix-Element X is going to have that advantage over the Chord TT2, unless you want to go with like a Raspberry Pi unit or whatever else to stream your, you know, your music over from Roon into your Chord TT2. So yeah, Inception, I love that movie, man. And that soundtrack, I have a really dope test track from Inception that I just love as well. What's up, Ant? Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining, man. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. So as far as Roon implementation, I would give the advantage over to the Matrix-Element X, and really all of the Matrix products I think almost all of them now are Roon certified, and I basically have a Roon endpoint at every single listening station I have now because I like it. I don't like fiddling with as much stuff. And so that's something I really appreciate about the Matrix-Element X over the Chord TT2. So if you say, hey, one advantage for the Hugo TT2 is going to be its internal amp, well then you give one advantage maybe to the Matrix-Element X for its certification of Roon. So, because I know that there's a lot of people that have been talking about for years that the Chord Hugo TT2 was supposed to be certified by now, but you know it's not happening as of yet. So, at least not to my knowledge. It does have Bluetooth built in though, so you do have a Bluetooth option with the Chord. So that is, you know, something I should mention for sure. Let's see. As far as filtering wise, you've got 4 filters in the Chord, and I believe, I want to say 5 or 6 in the Matrix. So you can really kind of alter that sound. I really ultimately, like I said earlier in the stream, prefer 2 of them, most of all though, just because I feel like, you know, the slow roll-offs just sound more natural with the Matrix. The other ones, if you're extremely an analytical listener though, you may prefer some of that more analytical listen. Or if you have a tube amplifier that really needs some more of that help, you know, to pull out some more or extract some more detail, or it could be a solid state even if your solid state's not up to par, you know, you could use one of those other filters, and that might also help, you know, you synergize your chain a little bit better. But for me and what I have currently gear-wise, I prefer the 2 and 4 on the Matrix-Element X. 2 and 4 are going to be my filter choices. Yeah, Matt, I use Roon monthly right now, but I told myself that if I use it for a year straight, actually, nah, I'm buying it next Black Friday sale. I'm not going to even have to use it for a year straight. Well, I guess that would be a year. I started using Roon in November anyways. So the next Black Friday sale, I'm going to buy the lifetime, because every single component I now have that feeds all my amps is Roon certified. So there's no reason for me not to get it. 7 filters. Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you. 7 total filters on the Element X. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you correcting me on that one. I knew it was close. I thought it was 5 or 6, but yeah, 7. It sounds right. There is a lot of filters. And Sheldon, speaking of Sheldon, one of the reasons why I got into the Matrix audio components was because of Sheldon. Sheldon and I were chatting on my Discord about it, and he was kind of giving me, you know, his thoughts on it and how it works and implements with Roon, because, you know, Roon is kind of what pulled me to Matrix, you know, wanting to find the best possible ways to stream to Roon endpoints, and Matrix is kind of one of them, you know, in my opinion. And so Sheldon kind of introduced me to the Matrix stuff, and I started to dive a little bit deeper. And then Mocha Mark sent me out this unit to review, and then I ended up trading off one of my DACs to him and then buying it from him because I liked it so much. Yeah, Ant, you're doing, yeah, yes. Can we do a Roon group buy? Let's do that, please. Roon lifetime group buy, Ant. Dude, you can make it happen. If anybody can make it happen, can you please reach out? I'm with you on it. I'll get in on that. Okay, good question, Tilton Lane. So, it's better. I think the Chord crossfeed feature is better than the Roon crossfeed feature. I've been playing around with the Roon crossfeed feature a little bit, and sometimes it works great for some tracks, but some other tracks, it seems to lose like a little bit of its dynamics. And I know the point of crossfeed is to make headphones to sound more speaker-like, right? Obviously, that's why we're using it. But sometimes I feel like with Roon, the crossfeed almost pulls it a little too far away, if you will, if that makes sense. And it takes away from some of the dynamics and the sound. Just with the Roon crossfeed feature, I think with the Chord crossfeed, actually, it's better. It doesn't do that as much as the Roon. So just to answer that question for you. Spotify Hi-Fi later, yes. Yeah, that could be really cool, Adam. I think that it's only going to be 16-bit 44, so just at least that's what I read. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's not true high resolution 24-bit. But I think it's a damn good start, and I'm glad that they're going that direction. It's about time. So I think it's great. Okay, so let's see. Build quality wise, between these two units, So we'll get back on topic. I love chatting with you guys though. So if I go off topic a little bit, it's just because I want to keep interacting with you guys in the chat. So hopefully that doesn't bother you guys or the viewers. I mean, I like hanging out with you guys too. So I want to chat with you guys as much as possible. The Chord Hugo TT2 has a really cool build quality. I mean, it reminds me of like Star Wars kind of a little bit, and Darth Vader. It's got like a Darth Vader feel to it. I don't know, maybe it's just kind of a Star Wars nerd, but it's definitely got like a Star Wars feel to it. The top of it has, let me see if I can tip it a little bit for you guys to see without unplugging all my cords. Here, let's do this. I'll kind of give you guys a little bit. So the top of it, for those of you who have never seen it, has kind of a viewing box basically that allows you to see the componentry inside the board, and it has some pretty cool lights inside of it too that light up, and then you've got a top viewing panel here as well that allows you to basically see the different modes you're in, as well as volume and other features within the product. And then up here, one of the coolest things is this little ball. It's like this little glass kind of globe that you can turn left and right, so you can actually adjust the volume directly with this, which is nice. And it's just like such a different way of addressing volume control compared to your traditional, volume control. Not that there's anything wrong with your traditional volume control, and this one's actually really unique too, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this is just, once again, it's back to something about like the British and the way they design stuff. It's unique. It's very kind of out there and different thought process, which I love and I respect about that. So I really dig that, and I like the viewing kind of window at the top, if you will, of the Hugo TT2. I think that's pretty sweet. And then you've got like your power on, and all your other buttons and your menu features up front, and then of course, your logo up front. And then you've got a balanced out in the back and RCA. Let me see. Yeah, Qobuz does partner really well with Roon, Tilton. I love Qobuz. It's probably one of my favorite sounding. I just wish they had more of a library. I just wish they had 10 million extra tracks to keep up with Amazon and Tidal. I mean, I've been playing around with Tidal ever since I got into Roon. I added Tidal and I discontinued Amazon just because Amazon wouldn't integrate with Roon. So I needed to fill in my library with another service. So I've been using Tidal, and I actually enjoy Tidal as well. I'm not a huge fan of MQA and having to utilize another software, although every component I now does have MQA capability, with the exception of one. And so, but I do think Qobuz is probably one of the best. I just wish they had more library. Okay, so talking about the Matrix. So the Matrix has, let's see, a few extra actually connections on the back that the Chord doesn't have. Let me see here without having to rip everything out. But one of the things unique about the Matrix right out the gate is going to be the volume control. It has like a analog and digital volume control that works in conjunction with each other, which is pretty interesting. What did you just got new ink in the mail? Congrats, Sleepy. Sleepy has the best penmanship of anybody I've ever met. And yeah, that new green ink is sweet that you showed me today. I love it. But this one has just really, it has a really nice fluid turning volume control. It's easy, so it's kind of got a digital and analog feel. And the other thing too is it completely ties into Roon. So if you want to adjust the volume control of the Matrix-Element X directly from Roon, you also can do that as well. So as you can see right now, I'm changing it right now from Roon. You can hear it clicking because it has that's the analog relay taking place. Maybe you can't hear that clicking, I don't know, but it's pretty sweet. So when I'm listening and I'm feeding it obviously to another amplifier. I usually just leave it at 0 dB and let it just kind of feed out to, you know, one of the other amps. And then I use the volume control from that amplifier. But you do have the capability of kind of controlling that as well. So that's kind of a cool feature that I like. You know, convenience-wise, I do like that the matrix-element X does have a balanced connection on the front. It's one kind of thing that, you know, I wish they could have fit right here. Instead of having just two single-ended, they would have put a balance cable just for convenience. The Chord TT2 doesn't need to have a balance connection. The single out is that clean that you're good without having a balance connection. I mean, it's literally that good sounding out of single-ended. But you can obviously connect it into the back with a balance like I had mentioned earlier in the stream. So you do have the capability, but it's just a little bit more inconvenient in my mind to have to wire it up with a cable behind it and go back around. So that is one thing I like about the Matrix. However, the amp stages aren't, you know, obviously we already discussed the amp is better inside the Chord. It's more powerful, it's cleaner, it's more dynamic sounding than the Matrix. However, once again, $2,000 difference in price. So then you have, what else? You've got, okay, so those are kind of the hardware things. Build quality wise, you've got excellent USB audio out of both of them. Both of them sound exceptional. The Matrix is using some of the best components right now in any of the Asian designed and built amplifiers and DACs. I think it's using the Crystec filter. Let me get it and just double check here. And you got full MQA rendering too. So that's something to consider if you do listen to Tidal and you do want MQA. This can fully unfold it and do everything for you, separate of even having to do it in Roon. It can do it completely. Okay, so if you are a Tidal listener, the matrix-element X does give you some advantages with Tidal, whereas I believe Chord will recommend not even to use any MQA whatsoever. They say just stay away from MQA. So that's something to consider for somebody that might be interested in purchasing one of these two units. There it is, femtosecond clock, and it's using the ES9038 Pro DAC chip in the Matrix. So, I mean, honestly, detail on both of these units is absolutely exceptional. I mean, they both sound extremely detailed, and I'm not going to pretend to have golden ears and be able to hear significant differences in detail. I would say the Hugo TT2 does seem to have a touch more, you know, but, you know, I can't say that objectively. I can only say that subjectively. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But it is both of them are extremely, give you more than enough detail to hear, especially with like a pair of headphones like you know, the Verite Open Limited Edition, Desert Ironwoods, or if you were running like an HE1000 SC, or I mean even the HE6s, you know, the amount of detail that both of these DAC stages can provide is exceptional. Yeah, live lyrics are pretty cool for sure on Amazon Music, Sleepy. You know, Tidal actually has that though, and Roon also has that too. So you can get both. You know, I haven't compared the TT2 to the Dave before, so I can't answer that one for you, buddy. Yeah, I agree, Rhino. I mean, honestly, you don't need to. The Chord TT2 doesn't need to be balanced. It sounds exceptional single-ended. It's definitely, without a doubt, I think it's one of the best single-ended amplifiers I've heard. I think it's definitely up there. So it sounds, especially paired with its own DAC. It's just, the two is very synergistic, the combo. Okay, so that's kind of like the 50-foot overview. What questions do you guys have around these two units? Talked a little bit about sound quality and, you know, them both being very detailed with the Matrix audio element having a more neutral sound signature, with the Chord TT2 maybe having a tiny bit more natural sounding and maybe a touch more detail. But once again, this could just be subjective. And honestly, I like them both a lot. And, you know, it'll probably depend on the recording as well. I would say the mid-range definitely, one thing I would say, in my subjective opinion, the mid-range is a touch sweeter on the Chord TT2, just a little bit. It's a little warmer sounding to my ears, even with just their reference filter. I still think the Chord TT2 is slightly warmer than the matrix-element-X to my ears. Element is pretty great if you want a standalone device, streams both. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Sheldon. I mean, right now, the Matrix line of products is really sitting kind of in their own space, really. I mean, if you think about it, if you take into account Roon, you know, and you take into account how well they stream, and just the ability to kind of just hook into a different amp and roll with it, they've uniquely positioned themselves pretty well. And they have a very detailed neutral signature, so you're not really changing the tone of your amp or your music a ton, so you can really just focus on your headphones. And this was kind of back to my earlier point. So if you wanted to build your synergistic kind of, you know, sound signature, you could focus primarily on your headphones and your amplifier, and, you know, to really kind of get that sound you want, because the Matrix is going to give you a more neutral sound signature. So it's not going to alter a ton other than just giving you great stage, excellent stage. I mean, a wide stage, both in speaker, even wider sounding in speakers, which is really cool. That's the other thing. I did listen to both of these units with speakers, and they both sound exceptional as well with my KEF LF50 Metas. And I do think the Matrix still, it does have a touch wider sound. Maybe that's just, you know, the way I'm hearing it, but it does have a little bit wider sound. But I feel like the Hugo is maybe a bit more enveloping sound, if you will, more three-dimensional a bit, a touch maybe more three-dimensional, and maybe a tiny bit more holographic. But they're close, but you're still getting a bit different presentation. Let's see. Yeah, I've heard the Dave, the amp in the Dave is not as good as the amp in the TT2, but correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe Last Rhino will know that, but I heard that, I think I did read somewhere that the amp is a little bit better in the TT2. If you had to guess, Sleepy Rhythms, the TT2. I would say yes, I would agree. So let me post that question on which one would be more forgiving with brighter headphones? I think if you were to place, especially if you were to take the Chord and put it into one of its warm filter modes. So for instance, like I would say, if you go to the reference mode of the Chord TT2, you know, which is filter 1, and then if you go into one of the slower roll-off modes of the matrix-element X, I would say that, and then you were to take the Chord and put it into its warm filter mode, the Chord becomes even warmer sounding signature. So I would say if you had extremely bright headphones, yeah, I would think that's probably a safe assessment, Sheldon, to say that the TT2 would be a better match. Chris Hall, have I heard the Chord Mojo? A long time ago, and it was just briefly, so I couldn't give you like a huge comparison in sound between those two, but it did have a natural kind of impactful sound that I feel like most of the Chord products do have. As far as impact and dynamics, I would say that the sound of the Matrix stuff, it has good impact. It's tighter though, I would say. It's a tighter level of impact. It's punchy and it's fast. Whereas like, for instance, you know, like listening to the D90 or the Bifrost 2 or even the Chord TT2, you might have a little bit more kind of impact, if you will, or more it's a warmer tone of bass a little bit, but it's maybe not quite as tight as the Matrix, because once again you've got that kind of reference level sound. So okay, cool. So let me kind of go, is it cool if I take you guys to a different screen and just kind of show you some of the test tracks that I like to kind of listen to stuff with? Maybe you guys might kind of dig that, and I'll kind of give you some ideas of some of the songs that I was listening to. So if you wanted to check some of these out at home, you could kind of get a feel for them. I don't know if you guys would be into that or not, but I'll kind of show you some stuff. So if I go over now, I'm going to take you guys over into Roon. I'm going to take you to a different camera here. So, all right, so I've created like several playlists. So as I've been comparing different headphones and different gear in general, I really enjoy just creating tons of different playlists. I've also went and grabbed other reviewers' playlists just to see what they listen to and what they're hearing, because I want to see if I'm hearing some of the same things they are. Some reviewers I don't listen to as much because it's completely all jazz, and nothing against jazz. I think jazz is phenomenal, but I like to listen to a balance of all kinds of different types of music, as you guys know that subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, smash that like button for me on the video, and please consider subscribing. We do all kinds of different stuff, not just live streams, but also reviews, standalone reviews. So if you want to see some of the new reviews coming up, don't forget to subscribe. So one of my favorite tracks, especially in a 2-channel setup, is from Black Panther Wakanda. So just the vocals and then the imaging and the depth of this song, especially with either different DACs or different speakers or different amps, and how they can display the images, whether it be from headphones or speakers. This is a great song to really get that. And then when the horns come in, or the trumpets, I believe when they come in just blasting in this song, you also can hear tonality differences of different DACs, of different amps, and of different headphones or speakers. Some speakers are going to display those horns really, really bright, and some could sound a little sharp, and some could sound a little warmer, and it really gives you an idea kind of the tonality of the chain of what you're listening to, or the headphones or the speakers. So this is a really fun track for that, and one I recommend you guys checking out, especially if you have a 2-channel setup. I think it sounds great on headphones. In fact, the better DACs and the better headphones and the better amplifiers will make it come closer to sounding like speakers, but it doesn't replace what it sounds like on speakers. And oh man, it's good. It's really good. So, and I could do a couple comparisons if we wanted to do some live audio comparisons, maybe towards the end, if you guys want me to do that. And I can give you some subtle differences between the DACs and these two. Another one I really like is Inception, Mombasa, and it's from the artist Two Cellos, and it's a Hans Zimmer track, baby. Hans Zimmer classics. This one is sick for dynamics. Like, I mean, right out the gate, if you want to hear how punchy and how dynamic a pair of headphones are or speakers are, and how well a DAC or an amp can display those dynamics, this is a really good one. I mean, it hits you from the opening second this song comes on, and then it just gets better and it builds. So that's a really fun one to check out. Oh, cool. I'm glad you guys are into the song, Rex. I'm happy you guys dig that. Sweet. So really great one for that. Dark Knight, this is probably not, Why So Serious? This is probably not a new one for anybody, but this is really great for sub bass. I mean, exceptionally well for sub bass. And this track will really kind of tell you what your amp and your headphones or your speakers are really capable of displaying from a sub bass perspective. And there's somewhere in the middle of that track, somewhere I want to say around the 5-minute mark, where I'm trying to remember from the movie what exactly is happening, but it's an explosive sound and repetition, whether it's like rockets being launched or kind of like a gun firing, like, you know, high caliber weapon firing off. But let me just tell you, like, listening to that track on every single amp that I've heard so far, on every single pair of headphones I've heard so far, just to give you an idea, and then listening to it through every amp, none of them were capable of displaying it, and DAC were capable of displaying it in the same way as the Nautilus paired up with my NADC 658 streamer. Because that streamer, and that's for headphones or for speakers, because that streamer and that DAC in there is so punchy and dynamic sounding, and Nautilus has so much weight and so much punch to it that around that 5 minute and something mark, when that explosion happens, it's like, you know, it is like weighty, like the way it hits. And then you throw the HE6 version 2, SE version 2 into the mix, and it's like nothing dynamic, I mean, from that track that I've ever heard. It's pretty impressive. So once again, the DAC can also make a difference with how dynamic, you know, something can sound along with the amp and along with the speakers. Later, Sleepy. Thanks, brother. Thanks for joining. Yes, Mombasa. yeah. I've never clipped any yet, thankfully. But it is a really good one to test with. Yeah, Marius. Yep, it is a really good one to test with for sure. I haven't clipped yet, thankfully. I hope not to have that happen. Maybe I'm not listening loud enough. Okay, so next track that I really enjoy is just from this playlist. I've got like 5 or 6 different playlists, but this one is from The Last Samurai. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. One of my favorite movies. I've definitely loved any kind of samurai movies a lot, especially ones that kind of really go into the traditional world of Japan. And this is again from, you know, I believe Hans Zimmer was a part of this one too as well, on the Hollywood Studio Symphony Orchestra. And basically, this is a beautiful one for tonality and strings. So just hearing flutes also as well, a whole bunch of different string instruments, and it really allows you to hear the tonality of, you know, the speakers, you know, the DAC, as well as the amplifier. So this is another really, really gorgeous song to listen to, and also staging too, and allowing you to hear where the instruments are coming out of the mix and how well they're being positioned. So that's also a really fun one as well. Yeah, it's a good one to test dynamics for sure. Hans was supposed to do a concert in Munich. Oh, man. Yeah, man, April 2022. Man, I might have to meet you for that one, Martin. That would be sick. His live from Prague. Oh, man, his Hans Zimmer's Live from Prague album. It's one of my favorites. I mean, it is one of my favorites. That's one I don't need a playlist. I just listen to that entire album, and it gives me everything I want to hear to test pretty much everything with, because he just combines such an exceptional amount of electronic production along with orchestral, along with, I mean, electric guitars, vocals, everything. He does it all. He's a genius, man. He's a brilliant genius. Okay, and then I got a few others like Enya. You know, this is a really good one. Kind of new age, super cool to test vocals and hear vocals along with also orchestral instrumental sounds. And then I like Dreams from Fleetwood Mac quite a bit, because this one's interesting too, because different headphones, also the way different DACs or amps kind of can bring up the mid-range or change the mid-range. Nix's voice can kind of either sound a little further away, a little closer, warmer, a little colder, and then also you can kind of pick up with different DACs how much cymbal taps are coming through like in that track. So like you're gonna start to hear more cymbal tracks for like more kind of, I guess, more treble present audio gear, whether that's, you know, the DAC or the headphones or the amp, but you're going to hear more of that cymbal presence. And sometimes it can become annoying on some pieces of gear, and sometimes it's just right, you know, and also how well different pieces of gear image, because you can listen to that song and hear the stage and how well, you know, the drums are being placed, the cymbals, the vocals, where they're coming from each vocalist, the guitar, everything. It's very complex if you really take the time to listen, and it's just epic. Like, it's one of the, you know, one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs ever. So, you know, obviously a lot of you guys have probably heard that before, but it is a really good one to check out and test gear with. And so a lot of these different tracks I have gone through and listened to with the Hugo TT2 as well as the Matrix-Element X to kind of give my impressions, along with, you know, all these different amps. So these are just a few of them. Of course, shout out to Daft Punk. You know, this whole album is also, you know, from Random Access Memories is exceptional to kind of hear, especially for transients, right? Picking up how fast the music shifts and changes, how well your audio gear can go along with that and shift and change. This is also a really good album for that. And also dynamics and bass as well. So Motherboard is a really good one for that. There's a lot of subtlety and intricacy in that song and how it's introduced. So I would say that's a really good one to check out as well if you haven't played a lot on that album. Most of you guys probably have. What a bummer too. I mean, how many of you guys were bummed when you heard about Daft Punk breaking up? I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Shout that out in the comments, because that was just, I was crushed, man. I've got so many memories of their music, and I was so bummed, just so bummed. Yeah, you have live and prog CD 2 times for both cars. Yeah, you got to have it, man. You got to have that. That's one you just. Actually, that, now that you say that, I remember I was at a family member's wedding last year before COVID lockdown happened, and so early in the year, and I remember playing that album and I think it was which one was it? It was Crimson Tide, 160 beats per minute. And I was playing that song in my truck because we were going, and we were in Truckee, California, and we were like getting just snowed in, just getting bombarded with like the most snow they've seen in so long. And so we were like trying to bomb to get like ice melt and other things. And I was like, all right, we got to turn on the music to get the ice melt, to get back before these guests get here and melt all the snow and shovel, shovel, shovel. And I put on that song, and me and one of my buddies were just listening to it, and he had never heard this album before, but he loves music, and he was just blown away by that song. So yes, I can relate. I love listening to that in my truck as well. All right, and then let's see. Hey Adam, that's a great question. So I'm going to throw that up on the screen so we can answer that for other viewers, and people can see that after the fact, just in case they're not on the live stream. So Adam says, anyone find that if you're evaluating gear, switching from song to song, genre to genre quickly makes it less enjoyable? I tend to find faults too quickly. It's best to hear a whole album at a time. I do both. So here's the thing. So for me, I like to do kind of a hybrid of how I review gear. I don't just A, B, C stuff. I like to listen to an entire album, an entire headphone, an entire DAC, an entire amp, whatever you want to say, like all of that audio product chain together. And I do that for a while, and I formulate and I take notes and I build my impressions based on what I'm hearing. And then after I feel like I've got a good gauge of what I'm hearing, I then will move into maybe switching to, and it's probably likely not even on the first day, or it might not even be on the first week for that matter. And then I will move into a different audio component and switch up that chain and introduce and see what I'm now hearing, which might be different, take additional notes, and I will do that for a while. And then I will compare those notes, and I will kind of look that over and get an idea for what I've been experiencing so far, and I will continue to keep listening. And then towards the end, I would say, of my review process, after I've kind of gathered a lot of what I have, my impressions, if you will, of what the audio products sound like, together the synergy of the chain, then I may start to do a little bit of A-Bing, going down the playlist, or going through my different playlists to kind of finalize and take more notes, kind of give kind of like a multifaceted approach to how I am gathering my impressions on different pieces of audio gear. So I don't rely on just ABCing. I don't rely on just listening to one song and then flipping it to another. I don't rely on just listening to an entire album and then flipping to it. I do all of it. So that's how I build it. I don't do measurements on my channel or during reviewing. I'm not doing that kind of stuff. I'm not usually using EQ unless I'm just testing to see how well a headphone can take EQ or tone control. So for me, that's kind of my process, is I kind of do a hybrid approach to all of that to kind of get my impressions. Yeah, it was so sad when Daft Punk, I know, man. Yes, 28 years was it when Daft Punk? Something like that. I think it was 28 years. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't either, Martin. And you know, there's this ongoing joke at Burning Man. I don't know if anybody on the stream's ever been to Burning Man, but I went for 10 years in a row, and I think 11 years total. And it's just an epic place if you like electronic music, first of all, but also acoustic music, all kinds of individual vocal music, orchestral, bands. I mean, you name it, it all happens out there. It's just, imagine a city that erects in the middle of the desert in, you know, becomes the second highest population of the entire state of Nevada within a week's time. So anything and everything is there. Not to mention giant art cars spitting out fire out of the tops of them and all kinds of cool stuff. But basically, there's this ongoing joke at Burning Man that you got to get to the trash fence by a certain day. And the trash fence is the very last fence of the border of Burning Man, where you can't go past it any further, because if you do, you're outside of Burning Man. You're no longer in the event. And there's a trash, basically, place by the fence. And there's this ongoing joke that every year people at Burning Man say, Daft Punk is going to be playing at the trash fence on Tuesday at 9 p.m. And now, probably never going to happen, if it ever did. But there is a couple times people put on the helmets and pretended, and it was pretty funny. Yeah, so many joyful memories, Quinn, 100%. Yeah, and that's the thing. You can't really... 28 years is pretty great, and they gave us a lot in their music. Hey, no problem, Adam. Yeah, that's why I wanted to take the time and answer that question, man, because it's a really good question. And I think it's a good question for many people, whether they're new to the hobby or existing, that, you know, one, you can understand my approach to it so you understand how I do things, and two, you know, if there's anything we can learn from each other on it, I think it's great. Bubbles, yes, Bubbles is actually... Oh man, Bubbles. Yes, Matt Hilty. That's actually on this playlist. It's right down there. Bubbles and Wandering, right here. I love Bubbles and Wandering on headphones. This is an exceptional track to be able to test the stage. And that's part of the reason why I felt like the stage was a touch wider, both on speakers and headphones from the Matrix-Element X than on the Chord TT2, even if it was maybe a touch... Maybe the chord was a little more holographic, but I felt like the width was a little bit more out of the Matrix. And all of this stuff, when I say a little bit, we're talking, this is all small, guys. This is not like massive, right? You're talking about premium DACs here that are really capable of giving you some of the best sound. So we're not talking 30% or 20, you know, we're talking small percentages of improvement or differences in my opinion. So, but Bubbles and Wandering. Okay, so Matt, I'll put the comment back up on so we keep this on topic for a second since you left this on here. So not only is it great on headphones, great on 2-channel speakers as well, but let me tell you something really sick to do with this track if you have the capability. Play Bubbles on a 5.1 or 7.1 or whatever you have surround sound system. Sit at the middle of your sweet spot for that surround sound and play Bubbles and Wandering. And do that after you've had like maybe a scotch or a bourbon or whatever your thing is, or a toke or whatever you're into if it's legal in your country. Do that, and let me tell you something. You are going to hear something like you've never heard before. It's pretty freaking rad in our surround sound system. No, you don't need to hatch off an arm to go to Burning Man, Martin. You just got to go, man. Listen, I'll tell you what. If you want to go, and when COVID-19 is over and you're into it, I'm based in Nevada, so we'll figure something out. I'll help you, man. We'll figure out something for you to make that happen. You just gotta get the plane ticket and bring some money for supplies and stuff. But we can make it work. I got a lot of friends, and my friends have a lot of friends that fly in from all over the world to go to Burning Man. So Don't think just because you're continent, or you're over the pond, you can't make it. So one day after COVID-19, it's got to be on your bucket list, brother. Let's see. MD Frick says, I often flip back and forth between just a few favorite tracks when I have some new gear to see. Yeah, I mean, and that's cool too. Do whatever works for you, MD. I think honestly, whatever your process is that you love and enjoy, I just think that the more I've been doing it and the more serious I've got about it, I just started doing just kind of like a hybrid of all of them, because I just felt like what was the most natural thing to do. And, I don't know. And also I think it allowed me to really kind of like just sit with an audio product for a while, whether it's headphones, speakers, or DAC or whatever it was, to really just kind of maybe get an overall feeling and impression of what it is first before I start just A-Bing. Because I'll tell you something, like I have A-B'd things before, right? So like, I'll give you an example. Here's a perfect example. So I remember I was listening to the Meze Empyrean for like, I had already listened to it for like a week, and I was just, really deep into the review process of that so far. And then I started my A-B, okay? So I started my A-B comparison. And I grabbed the HE6 SE version 2, and I brought that in, and I started listening to that. And I had just listened to the Meze, though, for 2 straight hours, okay? 2 straight hours. And then I brought and it was like, whoa, this is so vastly different. It threw me off. Like I was like, something's wrong, something's not right. You know what I mean? And like, this is too far off. So that's why I kind of refrained from holding off on, doing it too quickly. And I knew, because of my process, I knew that it was okay. It was just my initial reaction. I just knew that these signatures are vastly different, but if I do that too early on, let's say in the A-B process, you might build in bias thinking that, this headphone's not as good as this headphone. And I think too often there's a lot of reviewers out there that do that, and they just A-B straight out the gate to their favorite headphone, and they build bias in immediately without giving that headphone a fair shake, or speaker, or amp, or DAC, or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of why I do that a little bit differently. Yeah, Bubbles. 8. Ooh, let me check that track. Adam, I'll put that in the comments so other people can know. Bubbles is great. Also try Asian Roots by Take Dig if you haven't. It's killer. I will check that out. Thank you, brother. That's great. I always love new music. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, Denver. Burning Man, brother. Yeah, Denver and I have been to Burning Man many times, and our hopes is if things work out this year that we'll be able to go to Burning Man together this year as a crew. So we'll see what happens with the vaccines and everything. It might be a tough one. We'll see. Went to Art Riot for 10 years, but it's been 10 years. Might be good. Yeah, Art Riot. That's cool. Yeah, the Playa is a fun place, man. Quinn, it is one of the best, as you know. It's brutal. It's brutal, though. You got to come prepared. Talk about extreme camping to the next level. Unless you do it like, Tommy Lee style, and you roll out there with like a 100-foot like bus or something, like tour bus with air conditioning. I mean, that's the way to do it if you can. That's epic. Martin, your only surround sound left is your wife's Volvo. Hey man, take what you can, brother. That's better than no surround sound. Elnrick, what's up, dude? Glad to have you with us, man. Thanks for joining. Welcome, brother. Yeah, good to see you, man. Denver knows. Yeah. How many times have Denver and I been to Burning Man at the same time? I don't know. Denver, how many times have we been there? I mean, we've gone maybe and camped together multiple years, but we've also gone and camped separate, but we've always had experiences where we've met up. And sometimes we might not even know, and this is the crazy thing about Burning Man, we might not even know like where each other are camping yet, but we find each other because that's just the way the energy is. In fact, one of the best experiences I've ever had, audible audio experiences in my entire life, was with Denver. And we were cruising around on an art car. And we'll have to talk about this on Denver stream when we stream with them, but I'll hint at it a little bit here too. We were cruising around on an art car, and we ended up hearing like just this bass coming off from the distance, and this sound that was just crackling over the playa. And anybody that's ever been to Burning Man will know, and I'm getting tingles just thinking about it right now. And we're like, oh, we got to go hear that. We got to go find where that's coming from. So I think we jumped on our bikes and we just left the art car and we started riding, and we were just like just riding as fast as we could to get there, and the bass just kept and the energy just kept coming closer and closer and closer as we rode, and the sound just started to get better and better. And we see this dome off in the distance and the lights just flashing and lasers shooting above it, and we're like, oh, something is amazing is happening over there. We got to go hear this. And so we run up to it and we get inside, we lock up our bikes and park our bike. I don't even know if we locked our bikes. We were so excited. We might have just thrown them on the ground and ran in there like two little school children or something, you know. And I mean, that's the power of music, right? It brings us back to being a kid. And we ran in there, and it was Bass Nectar, and Bass Nectar was dropping like the most epic live set, just swinging his freaking hair all over the place, and the bass was just dropping, and this dome was huge, and it was rumbling, and the strobes were just, and so there's just massive amounts of people, half naked bodies everywhere, you know. I mean, that's the easiest way to describe it, and just incredible. And so Denver and I, we got to get a better eyes view, and so we find these towers, these steel towers that are like, I mean, like kind of holding the whole structure together, and then where lights are mounted on. So Denver and I climb up on these towers, and like 25 feet in the air, you know, right aligned with where the speakers are. And it was insane. And we're just like looking over the crowd and lined up with the speakers. It was like one of the greatest audio experiences for that genre of music that I've ever had. So that's one really fun memory. Yes, Martin. One day, man. Even if you don't do long flights, whatever it is, whenever you can, if you're in the States, maybe try to time it with Burning Man. Yeah, MD Frick, I think that sometimes it does. When you're really excited to hear a new piece of gear, it is easy to want to just A/B really quickly right away. I get that. Yeah, no, Marius, I agree. Yep, that's what I like to do too. Just apply a multifaceted approach. You know, you can do your A/B listening, and then you can also do, you know, your longer listening sessions, and do it in whatever order you prefer, as long as you don't build bias in the process. You know, try to keep your biases, you know, out of the way. Hey, better late than never, brother. We're glad you made it. Sheldon, what are the first headphones you got when you're trying out new equipment? Oh, when I go to. Okay, I thought you meant which ones are the first ones I bought. So, I mean, as of right now, Sheldon, because I have had in the Verte Opens in for review for a lengthy time. Thank you. Big shout out to Zach and Bevan from ZMF for allowing me to review them for such a long period of time. And I've been working on that review. And I'll tell you that they've been my go-to first, because they're right now currently the most resolving pair of headphones I think I have, as well as they're probably one of my favorites. So I generally go to that first, because then I'll listen both for the technical performance as well as, you know, the staging, because I just really love the staging of the Verte Opens. That's a really great question. Appreciate you asking that one. That's excellent. You know, Solar, I don't know if this playlist is on Roon. I'm still fairly new to Roon. I've only been using it since about November, and I guess that's not brand new, but I don't know if these playlists are public or not. So if somebody wants to, you know, drop me a comment on the video after, maybe not in the live chat, or I can Google it and research how to make my playlist public, and I would love to do that for you guys and share that with you. And in fact, I do that on all my reviews that I drop on YouTube for a product review, and it's got like, you know, I think it's like 26 or 27 tracks, and it's my mainstay playlist, and some of the same songs are on that playlist that you see on this one. This has just got a few extra add-ons and different ones. So yeah. You use your microscope headphones? What are your microscope headphones? That's funny. Thanks, Martin. Yeah, man, it visually, I can't, yeah, it's just so awesome. Hey, Stefano, what's up, brother? Welcome. Hey, man, you made it to the party, and that's all that matters, my friend. Thank you for being here. Welcome. Solar, I hope I'm saying that right, Solar. I would say, you know, the Aria is, I believe, from my understanding, it's a pretty neutral, bright sounding headphone, I guess. So, you know, you might want to consider probably an amp and a DAC that is not going to give you more of that, I would say. I know that Aria has good bass. I wouldn't put the Aria with an A90, or honestly, I wouldn't put any of the Hyphemans with the A90. So I would probably veer away from more reference class amplification and DACs with another reference class, like, you know, Aria or HE1000 SC or, you know, yeah, HD800s kind of sound signatures. Because some of those, well, at least for me, I don't know, I prefer like less bright signatures. So have you not seen Bass Nectar live? But it was about every other artist in genre. Looking forward to that one day. Yeah, if you do MD Frick, go see Bass Nectar live. Make sure you don't go to an all ages show though, man. I will urge you against that. Just go to a 21 and up show, or 21 and up show if you can, or 18 and up at least. Otherwise, it's not quite the same experience. Yeah, Marius, yeah, something a little warmish for an Aria. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, or Class A solid state, because Class A does give you a little tube-like sound. Elnrick actually has heard, we can go back to topic really quick here for the Matrix for a little bit here, and we'll flip the script on my video. So Elnrick has actually heard the X-Saber Pro, which is basically the little brother of the Matrix-Element X, and it doesn't have the streaming features built into it like the Matrix-Element X does, but from what my understanding is, now I haven't heard that one, but from my understanding is the sound is pretty similar. So Elnrick, if you want to drop in the comments and let anybody else know your thoughts on those differences too, just let everybody know. Aria and Asgard are a good pair, good synergy. Hey, that's a good call, Stefano. Yeah, well, you got the Asgard, from what my understanding is a pretty warm, impactful, punchy sounding amp, and then the Aria is a well-staging, excellent detail headphone. So yeah, that would make sense, right? BBLTN, have I listened to any stacks? No, not yet, man. Nothing long anyways, long listening sessions. I did have the COS electrostats. Sheldon was kind enough to lend those to me for a couple months, and I was able to review those, and I will have that review dropping pretty soon. And I enjoyed it. I don't know if electrostats are really going to be my thing, really, but maybe I just haven't heard the right one yet. Yeah, SLR, no problem, man. Always. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us. Oh, so Elnrick hasn't heard the Element X. Okay, I thought you had for some reason, but you did like the X-Saber Pro. You thought that was a pretty solid DAC overall. I think maybe that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, they're pretty similar. Yeah, and from what I'm experiencing too, I have now 3 Matrix amps. So we can go talk about that real quickly. The Element X, the Element M, and then the iMini 3 Pro. I think that's how you say it. I always get confused on that one for some reason. Here, let me select my audio zone and I'll tell you. Mini I Pro 3. Always get that backwards for some reason. And all of them sound great, but they are different. And the Element is definitely, I think, the best at the top of the chain. The best enveloping stage, the widest stage, best layering, and most detailed, I think. And you know, they kind of go down in the order of performance. And I'll have a more in-depth review comparing all 3 for you guys in the future. And that might be a live stream, or that might just be a filmed review. Yeah, there you go. Sheldon says, between the X-Saber Pro and the Matrix-Element X, they practically sound the same. Only difference is the amp and streaming components. So yeah, there you go. So if you want, so that's a good call. So if you don't need the streaming components, but you want a very proficient, neutral, extremely detailed but impactful, you know, excellent sounding DAC, yeah, that could be a really good option, and I think that's around 2K. So that saves you quite a bit of money right there. So for me, the streaming component and ability to roll it with Roon is kind of the whole. It's kind of the sweet sauce to me though. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I like it so much. So I almost did buy that DAC actually, to be honest, Sheldon, but I just really wanted Roon. Yeah, the Mini Pro 3 is it's a head amp, Martin, with Roon streaming, and it's got AirPlay too, but it doesn't have the ability at the same level as the Matrix as far as its streaming capabilities through an app. You have to actually use it with Roon or through AirPlay. So there is some caveats and some things you do give up, but it is significantly less in price. It's around $1,000 versus $3,500. But man, it's my bedside rig, and once again, thanks to Sheldon for getting me into Matrix. He got me hooked into the Matrix. Literally, I think he said, which pill are you going to take, the red pill or the blue pill? And I was like, give me that red pill. And I went straight down the Matrix. But yeah, I think that that's my bedside rig, man. And honestly, the amp, if you listen to the amp in the Mini I Pro 3, like I like to put just, you know, an affordable tube hybrid with it, and it sounds better because I like tubes. But if I don't want to deal with it, I can just, honestly, I can listen off of the balanced connection. It's got a Pentagon connection, and I use an adapter to convert that to a balanced cable, and I could run that. I kind of like my Aeolus. That's my bedside headphone because it's not as exacting as the Verite. It's still fun, and it's just so, for vocals, like in the mid-range, that's kind of like what I like to listen to before bed. I don't like to listen to heavy music before bed, otherwise it's gonna F with my sleep patterns. I like to listen to a lot of female vocalists like Melody Gardot or you know, Lana Del Rey. I don't know, if you're on the headphones.com forum, you've been seeing some of them pop, or if you're on my Discord forum, you would see some of that music I'd like to listen to at night. And it's got almost, I think it's got a milliwatt out of the balance connection. So I mean, it's awesome. I think it's great. And it has a nice screen so you can see the track playing. Not that you really have to see that, but it's sick. I think it's a pretty sick little unit for around a G. I would buy it again. And I bought that with my own money. So it wasn't one somebody sent to me for review or anything like that. Yeah, it's an easy one-piece solution. Yeah, it really is. Absolutely. And it feeds other amps really well too. So yeah, and you can also do Roon with Raspberry Pi. Darko Audio does some great videos on Raspberry Pi on YouTube. If you want to see how to do some stuff with Raspberry Pi and Roon, he does some good stuff with that. So, okay. So we've been going for about 1 hour and 41 minutes. Do you guys want to listen? Do you want any live music impressions, or do you want to do any Q&A with me towards the end? Yeah, Melody, man. She is so good at, in high resolution. Yes, her voice is just, yes, man. Yeah, Tilton, absolutely, brother. Very good, very good. She's the bomb. So let me know. We'll spend like maybe 20 more minutes, and we'll cut it at 2 hours. But let me know if you wanted me to do any live impressions of any tracks or something like that from my playlist here on the differences between the two DACs and what I'm hearing live, or we can do Q&A on whatever you want regarding audio, gear, or between these two units. You guys let me know how you guys want to spend. I'll leave it up to you for the last 20 minutes, how we want to spend this last 20 minutes. Yeah, man, I did. I got it from my bedroom rig. I mean, I did, man. I know. How silly is that? But, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I did get it from my bedroom rig. And I have an Element M for my listening chair rig. And then I have I have the Element X for my desktop rig for my work reviewing everything else and editing video and photo. Awesome, Last Rhino. We can do some live listening impressions. So, all right. So right now I got it wired up. If you want me to do that, I got it wired up for The pendant. So we can roll it with a pendant first, if that's cool with you guys. And let's see here. I'll let you guys pick a song off my list here and we can kind of get some ideas. You want me to start with a Chord TT2? Let me see what I got wired up. I can't remember which it is. So let me see which one we got wired up first. And I'll probably mute myself just so I don't get a copyright blast from YouTube. So unless you guys tell me that the audio is okay and it's not too far off. So let me see here. We'll start with a Chord TT2. Quinn, yeah, highly recommend. Trippy dreams are good, man. I like trippy dreams. As long as I'm dreaming, it means I'm hitting my REM sleep. That's a good thing. I want to be hitting that REM. All right. So I'll start with, since nobody's popping in, or maybe we got a little bit of a delay. Maybe I'll start with Fear Inoculum Tool from Tool, just to see the subtle differences in these tracks. How's that sound to you guys? Let me just make sure everything's keyed up here. All right, we're good for the TT2. Yeah, man, I love that album too. It's so good. A lot of Tool fans, like serious Tool fans, are like, you know, that's not one of their best albums. That's, you know, you're a Tool dad fan or whatever, you know, kind of making fun of it. Honestly, I think it's one of their best. I mean, I don't know. I love a lot of their albums, but I personally think it's one of their best albums they've ever did. Maybe because I'm older, I'm in my 40s, and I am a dad. I don't know, but I think it's fantastic. Yeah, it's great for track comparisons. I agree, guys. Nah, I mean, yeah. I'll start off with that. The Chord TT2 has a bit richer sound tonally than the matrix-element-m X. It has a little richer and more energy and weight in the bass as well as the mid-range. So it's a touch warmer, okay? That's what I'm hearing. However, the matrix-element-m X is more neutral reference, and I feel like it has more air and separation in between each note on the soundstage. So they're both incredible. Like, I could easily be happy with owning either one. If you have the money, and money's no object, and you prefer maybe a slightly richer, more tonally warm sound, if you will, with still a very holographic display, then maybe the Chord TT2 was like your end game. If you want a more neutral sound from your DAC that has maybe a touch better air in between notes, maybe the imaging is a little easier to pick things out just because of that air and the way it defines the shape of the images. Whereas the Hugo TT2 sounds a bit more just kind of like full-bodied and all together while still being able to pick it out, but it sounds a little more rounded off, I guess, which is in a good way, not in a bad way, you know? So some listeners may appreciate that, honestly. I feel like if you want a little bit more analytical sound, if you're a little more you like to analyze the music a little more, then maybe the Matrix is better. If you just want to just get completely lost in the music, then maybe the Chord Hugo TT2. But honestly, you could do it with either one. And I'm just saying the minute differences and nitpicking between the two because they're very subtle. At this level, they both perform at such an incredible level of performance. They're both incredible to my ears. So let's see. I could do one more track here. Let's check on. Let's do Wandering so we can do staging again and kind of go through staging one more time. So I'll start with a Chord Hugo TT2. Yeah, Tilton, it could be an easy choice. If you got $5,500, it's maybe so. Yeah, absolutely. For me, even though the sound is a little bit richer on the Hugo TT2, the reason why I kind of like the Matrix is I kind of roll with richer sounding amps already. So I kind of like the synergy between a more neutral digital analog converter paired with a richer sounding tube amps, you know? I mean, I guess the pendant is more neutral sounding, but these are richer sounding for sure. So sometimes I don't want to put even more richness, more butter on top of more, if you get what I'm saying. So why I kind of like the Matrix is because it gives you that neutrality, and the staging is super good, like really, really good. So let me try, yeah, I'm just doing the pendant right now. Yeah, I feel like the stage is just right outside of my ears for as far as width. That slam off the chord, woo! The slam is big. So is the bass. The bass presence is significant on the Chord TT2. So it's got significant rumble on the lower end. The imaging is exceptional. Definitely pulling you to the center of the music with the Chord Hugo TT2. I'm going to mute back again. There we go. Sounds incredible. I'm going to switch over to the Matrix now. I think really one of the things that struck me about listening to the Chord Hugo just now was the amount of rumble, you know, that hit immediately on the first bass hit of Wandering. You know, it almost, it's definitely north of neutral. It wasn't like neutral to my ears as far as bass, which if you like bass is a good thing. So that's one thing I would say right out the gate that hit me. And if I'm doing that, it's kind of, I'm measuring for you guys to know kind of where the stage is in width. So I'm going to go now to the Matrix. I'm going to do the same track Wandering from Yossi, and then I'll mute. Here we go. Okay, so the bass hits hard on this too. Very impactful and very dynamic. It just sounds a little bit more controlled, honestly. Sounds a little tighter, I guess is what I'm trying to say, especially paired with a tube amp. Whereas the Chord Hugo TT2 sounded a little more, like almost a little too much. So I was saying having the neutral DAC paired with a tube amp that I have kind of warmer tubes in too. Okay, so to me, the same thing kind of applies from my last impressions between the two. I feel like the width is a little bit greater in the staging of the Matrix, and it might have a touch more air in between the notes of the bird chirps, the bass hits, just everything on the stage. Even from the moment of him walking in and walking by, the sound is a touch more crisp to my ears, less rounded off, which I think really plays well with tube amps. So if you're a big time tube amp person and you maybe have tube amps that are already a little rounded off and rich, the reason why I kind of like the Matrix is for its ability to have a more neutral presentation to synergize with the tube amp. It was the same thing I experienced that I really liked about the the Matrix pairing with the Nautilus. So, and although the Nautilus isn't really a warm tube amp, it's maybe just a touch south of neutral, but still, that's something I definitely did notice. So I would say, honestly, they're both incredible. And I think if you have maybe amps that are more neutral sounding, then I would say the Chord Hugo TT2, if you have $5,500 and you don't need the streaming features of the matrix-element X, it's kind of like, it's going to be out of this world. Or if you just like a richer sounding signature, I mean, if you just want even more richness to your tube amplification, then geez, by all means, Hugo TT2. For me, I think I at times like a more rich signature, but I also kind of don't want to put more butter on top of syrup, if you will. So I think that with the Matrix Element X, what it allows for is, you know, that neutral, wide staging, detailed, airy presentation, and it pairs so well with tube amps. Now, I'm not a big solid state listener. I have as of right now just the solid state amps that are built into the DACs I have and the topping A90, and I only really use the A90 if I'm reviewing immediate reference stuff. But if I'm listening to music for enjoyment and or for review, it's 90% of the time off of a tube amp. So that's why I think I find that the Matrix series does really well. So that's kind of my takeaway. I think that they're both incredible, and I think they're both worth their asking price. I think they're both incredible products that anybody would really love if you're at this level of gear acquisition, which is a pretty high level, right? So I think that, the best thing to do is try to get it into your own chain and see what it sounds like with your amps, and if it's a good fit synergistically. I know that the Chord Hugo TT2 is probably one of the most loved all-around, all-in-one units in the world right now. So there's that. And I know the Matrix, even though it's a newer company, they're pretty damn good in what you get for the money and the value you get built in, especially with Roon. So I think that that's what you got to take into account. And what type of listener are you? Do you want, and what kind of experience do you want? And I think that's really what it's going to come down to. So I can do another track if you want, but I think that's probably, for now, is probably pretty good. And I'll probably drop some more of my thoughts and opinions on my Discord, as well as on the headphones.com forum, and kind of share some of that. And I'm going to be launching a new website here pretty soon, MR Media Productions, which I will be able to list some written content as well. So I'll probably pop some content with some photographs on there as well for you guys soon. That should be ready probably next month for you guys to check out. What other questions do you guys have? Do you guys have any other questions? Let me do one more. Let me just do one that's really a vocal based track here. It's got some good vocals in it. Let me go to a different playlist. I'm gonna do a Lana Del Rey track that I like. All right, here we go. I'll do this real quick, and then we'll call it. All right, so Love from Lana Del Rey. And this track is awesome. I love this one. I've listened to this hundreds of times, if not, at least a few hundred times. I review this with every piece of kit that I get. So what's unique about this song is that it's pretty bass heavy, right? You're going to hear a lot of bass undertones with this track. And at times on different headphones or different speakers, the bass can bleed into the mid-range, which is a huge bother to me. Like, there's some headphones that I had that, later buddy, thanks Martin, that actually had too much bleed into the bass region. Whereas right now, this sounds pretty darn exceptional from the Matrix, where that bleed is controlled really well. There's no bleed actually, and it sounds excellent. And with these headphones, fantastic. So I'm going to switch over to the Chord TT2 and see if there's that additional richness that it adds in the lower end, if we find any of that, or if it's still pretty well controlled, and we'll see. One sec here. Sounds pretty well controlled so far for this track. It sounds good. Lana's vocals sound a touch more euphonic. I mean, it sounds exceptional for vocals. I would say her vocals sound a little richer again in the mid-range than the Matrix, a touch more, and then there is a little bit more warmth to the lower end. But it didn't sound overly done. And paired with these headphones, it sounds fantastic. So I would say that's probably my takeaways for, so far for these two versus each other. You got a little richer sound, maybe a slightly more holographic or euphonic sound from the Chord, and you got a more reference neutral, extremely detailed and a slightly wider sounding stage. Both of them have great detail, but there's maybe, I don't know, it's a toss-up. I think this just the Matrix presents detail a little bit differently, a little bit more forward, and the Hugo kind of does it in a little bit more layered way. They're both exceptionally good. So it's really going to depend on your synergy and how you pair it. All right, dudes, and any dudettes, if we have any. I think that's pretty good. We've gone over 2 hours. Thank you for sticking with me, those of you stuck with me, and I'll give you more of my thoughts and impressions on my Discord and on my new website launching next month. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your weekend, and if you have anything, feel free to always give me a shout out on any of my socials, MR Media Productions, or on YouTube, of course. All right, everybody have a great weekend. Thanks again. Appreciate you guys. Take care. Thanks, Last Rhino. Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. See you guys soon in the future. My next review I'm dropping is going to be on the Phonitor XE. That'll be coming up here pretty soon. It's on my Final Cut editing bay right now. So I'll give you my thoughts on the Phonitor. So, and many more reviews. I got about 15 more reviews I got to edit. Thanks, Quinn. Appreciate you coming, man. Appreciate you. Thanks, Tilton. Appreciate you so much. Hey, Mocha Mark. Thanks, man. We just did a comparison. Thanks, brother. Thanks for stopping in to say hi. Sheldon, thank you, brother. Always appreciate you, man. Thanks again for introducing me to Matrix. Adios, Zen Boy. Thank you, my man. Appreciate you guys. Later, Stefano. Thank you, brother. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Saturday and Sunday. Thank you, Marooks. Thanks for sticking around to the end, brother. Appreciate you guys. All right, everybody. Have a blessed weekend. Stay safe and stay healthy, and much love. Later.